Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing another Forgiveness to Love, and I'm in my uniform, so you know that this is part of the same series, right? And so, anyway, this is Forgiveness to Love and My Life Exposed here. And so today, the title is Push to the Edge, and because we're called to serve. And so, I wanted to repeat something that I had said countless times actually in other video series on mariahaiti.com. And that is that here on planet Earth, we really are actors on a stage, right? On this glorious little planet that we have called Earth. And that there are people that enter our lives and there are people that exit our lives at the appropriate time after they have given us whatever gift they were to give us and we were giving them whatever gift we had to share. And so it's all part of a life experience, how we meet people, how we interact with them, whether our energies align or whether, when you walk into a room and all of a sudden you feel very comfortable and you think, oh, wow, this is going to be fun. Or you walk into a room and you just kind of go, I'm kind of creeped out a little bit. I don't think I want to stay. And so it's all about energy and how our energies are aligned with one another's. But truly, during this life experience, some people are truly pushed to the edge because it can be a harrowing experience for many of us. And so we can see people and then we can actually see the light in them. At the same time, we can see the darkness in some human beings, and we're not here to stop it. We're not even here to amend it. We're just here to observe it because there's so much human ignorance, yeah, and stupidity. And even, obstinance and willfulness and selfishness and certainly greed that we feel, we can feel that we're in despair because it's just too much for our emotional bodies to handle when you've got all of these conflicting energies coming at you. And so sometimes we realize there's just nothing we can really do in order to mitigate the kind of the depravity that plagues the human collective. All we can do is kind of go with the flow when we can. And so sometimes we feel disheartened, and that's a perfectly normal reaction to what goes on here. And there's apathy. We can feel very apathetic. There's insouciance. Insouciance, I just love that word. When insouciance takes hold, and insouciance is really nothing more than indifference. And yet, doesn't it? It's such a great word, insouciance. Anyway, and evil expands in the comfort of darkness, right? And because that's where vulnerable souls are blindfolded and blanketed, in anguish and misery and they say misery loves company, and it's absolutely true because again, that's aligning the energies. When someone is miserable, and if your energy is aligned with with theirs, then you are also miserable, and then the two of you just sit and talk about how miserable it is out there, and how miserable you feel. And so we need to clear that because that's not a healthy place to be, and yet that's a very comfortable place for those individuals who are who find comfort in darkness, and yet when the truth is revealed, you would think that everyone would cheer, and yet that's not the case at all, because humans don't all cheer because they really don't want to see the light, and the peace that's out there. And so they can actually become more bitter and even more vengeful, which is, you would think you turn on the light and it's kumbaya or whatever it is. And that's not always the case. Anyway, that's exactly what happens when we tell our stories that become like the breaking national news, right? Because we threaten the status quo. And so I know that through forgiveness to love, I've certainly stirred the pot, and I've revealed truths that people do not want revealed. And quite honestly, those are truths that I never thought I would reveal, because I had gotten uh, such flack for even knowing those truths, and people were afraid that I was actually going to say anything about them. And so, even though I didn't say anything, um, people were so nervous that I was going to, that I would be punished ahead of time. So now I thought, oh well, I'm just going to tell it like it is. And anyway, in John, what is it, 8:32, it's ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And I absolutely believe that. We've got to tell the truth. And so many times, attorneys were hired by my family and others to kind of marshal their forces to file bogus litigation in order to destabilize me. And truly, it did destabilize me. And it throws you back, whenever we are in a situation where all of a sudden there's a tower moment where all of a sudden things kind of crumble, or we receive some shocking news. And so then our world is shaken, and it takes us a while in order to regain our footing. And so I know that some litigation that I was experiencing was I received an unlawful order of protection, and that said that I couldn't I couldn't even tell anyone my story. I couldn't tell anyone my name, really. I couldn't mention the ex's name. I couldn't contact my children. I couldn't contact anyone in the business community, which is like everybody on the planet, right? Because even the hot dog vendor is a businessman, and the bank CEO, or the investment bank CEO, or the bank president, or it's all a business, right? I couldn't contact anyone in the filial community, which is either the philanthropic community or the religious community. So I couldn't talk to a priest, or even a spiritual guru, or someone who was an esteemed. Well, it didn't even have to be esteemed. It could have just been somebody who was reading A Course in Miracles, or who was reading some religious text. I couldn't talk to them either. I couldn't. Who else couldn't I talk to? The business, the filial, the philanthropic, the I don't know who else it was. I couldn't even talk to a therapist. They had me not talking to anyone, and that's called a gag. And so yeah, that was just the most ridiculous thing. And actually, I couldn't talk to my children because they didn't want my children to know the truth. And so is it any wonder that in 17 years, my children haven't spoken to me? Because I didn't approach them. I would send emails, but children are children. And when we hide the truth from them, they believe only the bullshit that they've been told, only the false information. And so here we destroy families because we can order these unlawful orders of protection that generally, I guess, they're renewed every year, unless you're Maria, and then it's for life. And it's not only on this planet within this geographic location. I guess if I were on Mars too, they could probably get me there. Anyway, my attorneys were just like horrified, and they just didn't know if they should laugh or cry. And I didn't know if I should laugh or cry, but they were saying, well, you know what, you just go before a judge, and nobody would ever allow this to stand except in the courtroom where we were. And so they said, "Oh, just this judge has a reputation of being very misogynistic." So the judge didn't really like women. In fact, he had actually said that women don't deserve to live, and that was one of the most horrific things I had ever heard. And it was just so inappropriate. Anyway, I remember that the judge actually retired and moved to Scottsdale because he had gotten such bad press after my case that I remember one day getting a phone call from my attorney, and he said, "Did you go to the parade?" And I said, "What parade?" And he said, "Well, did you hear that the judge, he passed, and all the women all over the country were celebrating?" And so I thought, oh my gosh, that's just too ridiculous. But it was to shut me up, and he did a good job of it. And it was to shut me up and also to keep the truth of of the um, the ploys and the plots and the plans to keep me separated from my money. And so anyway, it was deliberately and fraudulently taken, and there was embezzlement and looting and swindling, and what else? And anyway, it was stolen. Anyway, by family and their paid team of experts, you know. So for the last 10 years, I've actually had to live with people that I had never even met before. And I was the woman whose home and money kind of vanished into thin air, while those on my family's payroll were buying cars, and they were taking out mortgages on homes, and they were flying to Bali. And what else were they doing? Yeah, they had these wonderful vacations, and they were flying to Italy, to Milan for some leather goods, and to Germany for lunch. I heard someone testify that that's what they did. And so anyway, it was like beyond obscene, right? And so the truth of the matter is that I lived in 3 different shelters, but I didn't need a shelter because I could have actually, with my money, I could have actually bought the whole damn building, or I didn't need 1 home or 2 homes or 3 homes. I could have bought homes in all 50 states, and yet here I was, just kind of walking around in all black with my black baseball cap, wanting no one to see me, and just camouflaged, and just kind of trying to just understand what in the world was going on. And I had 1 pair of leggings and 1 pink t-shirt and flip-flops. And so that was really how I spent a few months. And it was truly an eye-opening experience. And so anyway, I'm sharing bits of my life story to entertain you, actually, and to share some of the things that I've gone through, so that, if as you reflect on your own life, you can actually find humor in it. Because as I think of what I've gone through, it is kind of humorous. And at first I wrote kind of a comedy, actually, and I thought it was hilarious. And then people said, "Oh, well, you know, don't make light of it." But you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to go back to doing, because we learn through our pain and suffering. And so there was more dysfunction that I saw, when I had left although there was a lot of dysfunction, let me tell you, within my hallowed halls of my little castle, and yet I saw so much more dysfunction out in the real world, and I saw that I wasn't alone, and I saw how people were truly, truly suffering, and that there were so many casualties, and that for many of us, justice didn't prevail. And when justice doesn't prevail, what is it that we have? Because people were vibing at such a very, very low, they were vibing so low. And so when we are high vibrational beings, we exude kindness and love and trust and generosity and benevolence and all the good things, and responsibility and loyalty and respect, and all of those attributes that make us into human beings that care for ourselves in terms of loving ourselves, and that care for others in terms of loving them as well. And so I saw the pain and suffering, um, not because of the truth that came out, but it was because of people's egos. They were so prideful, and I do believe now that there is really a shift in consciousness. And so we must hold firm to the knowing of who we really are, and that in the long run, we really are here to make the world a better place. And everything does work out in our favor. And sometimes when we go through things, while we're going through them, we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And yet, when things settle down, we think, wow, I get it. And not only did I experience that, but someone else did to a lesser degree. And then we see the connectedness of the collective. And so we can open ourselves up to so many more blessings and abundance. And then we realize that things really do work out perfectly for us. And so even though we may be on a path going in this direction, and yet all of a sudden we are detoured and we go in this direction, and then it's kind of it's a little meandering route, and yet that's okay, because as long as we end up where we are supposed to end up, or where we choose to end up, the goal is, the beauty is in the journey, right? And so had we just taken a straight line, we might have missed so many experiences that really added to the richness of our life. And I know I'm probably digressing quite a bit from the message that I wanted to share, and yet there's so much that we are here to learn during this very short life on planet Earth. And we are here to really learn through trial and error, because even in the animal kingdom, no one spoon feeds the lions or whatever. They get it after trial and error. And that's really what we are doing here. We are slowly, if something doesn't work, then we adjust. And so because the earth provides, God provides, and whether it's God or the universe or the energy of all creation, or the heavenly beings or the angels and archangels, there are resources that are both inside of us as well as outside of us, and that we may tap into in order to have a life that sustains us, right? And we're given brilliant minds, and minds with unlimited imagination. And so we are then, only we limit ourselves. No one or nothing can really limit us. Think of the people who were born in poverty and all of a sudden just rose to an unimaginable success. Not necessarily materially, but just brilliant. Maybe they didn't even have anything but an 8th grade education, and all of a sudden they invented amazing things. So truly, we are gifted with so much. And there are so many fabulous composers and artists and authors and physicians and attorneys and business people. So I know in so many of my videos I knock the legal system, but I think I do it in a way that I'm actually showing you just what happened. And so that's just the truth of the matter. But yes, there are wonderful lawyers, I just haven't had any, but you know, that I wasn't supposed to because I was to learn certain lessons. And so, anyway, as we move from forgiveness to love, we're given the opportunity to forgive ourselves and then to forgive others and to love ourselves and to love others. And so we are really in the midst of a spiritual evolution here on this planet. And it is an amazing time to be here because it's a time when we are given the opportunity to speak up. And so when we see injustice, we can call it out. And so when we see people that are mistreated and who can't stick up for themselves, that's when we're being called to serve. And so we all have a voice, and it's a matter of using that voice in the best and the most appropriate way in order to effectuate change. And so the best way to make change in the world is really to change ourselves and to change our perspective on life and on our journey. And so when we can see the gifts involved, then life takes on new meaning, because they do say the only thing necessary for triumph the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. And you can see that truly. And so when we see ourselves in others, then we realize that we are also connected, and that we've all been victimized to a degree, and that when we get out of that victim mindset and we take on a more empowered persona, then really the sky's the limit for us. And so, because that way we get to the root of the problem, as opposed to just, what they say when we go to the physician or whatever, we can talk about symptoms, but yet symptoms are just, we're treating symptoms by taking a pill for this or a pill for that or whatever the medical community wants. But in fact, there's an underlying issue. There's a problem with certain organs. And so we want to get down and dirty into the cause of the disease and not just ameliorate the symptoms. And so that's what we're doing here. We're being asked to rise higher and to integrate those higher energies, those higher frequencies, and to stand tall and be grateful and bask in the beauty all around us, and to know that everything we need is right inside. And so I thank you for listening to me. I think I just have kind of gone off on lots of different tangents, but I guess it's that time. But anyway, let's go to number 41. And if you'd be so kind as to like, share, and subscribe if you liked it, and if you think it might help someone else. And so there are, let's see, so this was number 40, and I have 39 others on my website and somewhere on Facebook. Anyway, so I thank you all, and I wish you a day filled with the most amazing miracles. And I love you all.